International News.
As Nigeria commemorates Armed Forces Remembrance Day, Nigerian Army reiterates commitment to national security. 2015 elections, U.S. envoy wants Nigeria to learn from developed democracies. Nigeria Union of Teachers canvasses for adequate security in schools during elections. Plus, World Bank to assist Federal Road Safety Commission to achieve its development plan. It's my pleasure to welcome you to NTA International News. I'm Nancy Godi Angonihu. We start from security matters. President Goodluck Jonathan has commended the diligence and commitment of the officers and men of the armed forces to the fight against insurgency in the country. Addressing officers and men of the 7th Division of the Nigerian Army, May Malari, the president assured them that government will ensure that they are given all their entitlements. He visited the wounded soldiers at the military hospital and internally displaced persons in Maiduguri. The video report of this story will come to you in our subsequent bulletins. And normalcy is gradually returning to Baga, Borno State, following the repelling of Boko Haram attacks by militants in the area. Here is the report.
The 7th Division of the Nigerian Army in Maiduguri says combined efforts of Air Force and ground troops have repelled the attack on Biu, at the end of which the insurgents suffered heavy casualty and the military recovered VHT vehicles, assorted arms and ammunition. Residents of Biu says normalcy has since returned to the town and people are going about their legitimate businesses. Meanwhile, more people who fled Baga as a result of insurgent attacks have arrived to Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, for safety. Some of the fleeing Baga residents narrate their ordeal to NTA News.
Around 5:30 in the morning, we had gunshot everywhere cut with fire. We now run to the village. We trek all the way from Baga, we trek to Moguno Barak, before we now get a car that took us to Maiduguri.
Reports from the area indicate that people in the adjoining villages of Baga are fleeing to Maiduguri, which they consider safe. This adds to the number of people that have already arrived to Maiduguri from the affected areas, which the National Emergency Management Agency and its state counterparts are working hard to mitigate their sufferings. The National Emergency Management Agency has so far registered over 3,000 people from Baga. Northeast Zonal Coordinator of NEMA, Mohammed Kanar, said the agency is collaborating with other organizations and well-to-do individuals to assist the displaced persons and make life more meaningful for them.
The federal government, on behalf of the Mr. President, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, we are here today to distribute a very large quantity of rice, millet, maize, and in fact other accessories of Indomie, mattresses, and we are going to make a direct distribution.
In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
About 981,416 are internally displaced in Nigeria, out of which 108,000 are currently living in IDP camps across the northeast. The Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Sidi Ali, disclosed this at the weekly security briefing at the National Information Center, Abuja. Correspondent Edino Justice has a breakdown of this and the updates on Biu and Baga attacks. The report.
Air Commodore Charles Otegbade, Director of Research and Rescue, NEMA, who represented the DG NEMA, said they arrived at the figure based on scientific collation of data from International Partner Organization for Migration and State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. Out of the number, he noted about 804,732 persons are living with host communities.
The estimate we have is of 107,997 people that are in established camps. The balance of the people are living with relations, acquaintances, friends, and well-wishers.
He added that NEMA is providing educational and healthcare support for the IDPs. Michael Mary, while confirming the military's successful repel of Boko Haram attack in Biu on Wednesday, said 42 of the insurgents, including 15 Chadians, were killed, just as 5 of them were captured.
This operation is one of many examples
in the string of successes against Boko Haram in recent times. Evidently, the rise in suicide bombings is a clear evidence that Boko Haram is running out of options.
On Baga attack, he said about 3,200 are internally displaced and are currently camped in Maiduguri, adding that NAMA had dispatched a team from Abuja to strengthen the provision of humanitarian relief to the affected persons from Baga town. Mr. Michael Mary, paying tribute to the fallen heroes, urges Nigerians to give their continued support to the military to end insurgency in the land. Edino Justice, NTA News.
And more on the security arena. Nigeria's Inspector General of Police, IGP Suleiman Abba, has ordered all zonal assistant inspectors general of police and commissioners at state commands to take adequate measures at securing arms and ammunition on hold to the police at various departments and stations. In a statement, the IGP said this had become imperative in a bid to ward off any likely or possible attempt by hoodlums to attack police stations and other installations. The IGP also directed all commissioners of police at state commands to beef up security at banks and also enjoined Nigerians to collaborate with officers of the police force to stamp out crimes in the country. And now, giving honor to whom it is due, President Goodluck Jonathan early Thursday morning led Nigerians to the National Arcade Parade Ground to honor the nation's fallen heroes. The event was the grand finale of a series of activities to mark the 20th Nigerian Armed Forces Day celebration in Abuja. Correspondent Mohammed Abdulkadri reports.
It was a solemn ceremony of a kind dear to the heart of President Goodluck Jonathan, whose arrival at the National Arcade Parade Ground signaled the commencement of the event. The Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces thereafter proceeded to inspect the parade. President Jonathan also led other leaders, including members of the diplomatic corps, to lay wreaths at the feet of the unknown soldier. The firing party also performed their task in honor of the fallen heroes. This release of balloons and pigeons symbolizing peace added spice to the ceremony.
The balloon, could see, it's already off. The birds are taking it, could see.
The Senate President and members of the Federal Executive Council speak on the significance of the ceremony as the top echelon in the security sector noted that the lesson learned from the proceedings is never to let the country down.
No, you cannot lose hope in our armed forces. I think we have a very strong, solid, well-trained armed forces.
The significance of this event is for the nation to remember the fallen heroes.
That Nigeria is with the Nigerian military.
In the event of their laying their life for the country, they will always be remembered.
While the spirit of the unknown soldier lives on, uniting the country against threat to national peace and security, the theme for this year's Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is apt. appreciating the Nigerian Armed Forces. From the National Arcade, Abuja, Muhammad Abdel Kadri, NTA News.
Thank you, Mohammed. Now turning to election matters. Diplomatic relations between Nigeria and the United States have been further strengthened with the organization of a session towards ensuring a peaceful and credible election in Nigeria next month. The event, which is under the auspices of the Leadership Series launch, one-time President of the U.S., also coincides with what would have been the 86th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Phoebe Kabruk reports.
The U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, James Edwardson, says, as a representative of a fellow democracy and a great friend and partner of the country, the U.S. is looking with eagerness and anticipation the forthcoming exercise. He believes Nigeria has a lot to learn from a one-time president of the U.S., David Eisenhower, who was dedicated to the cause of peace and justice, and to reflect on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. as the country prepares for the polls.
It is up to all of us to make real our commitment to inclusion and nonviolence, and in that endeavor, cloaked in the spirit of the United States remains Nigeria's most committed partner.
Former governors of Kaduna and Ekiti states, as well as the representative of the Lagos State governor, spoke on the theme of the session, peaceful elections and promoting citizens' leadership in Nigeria.
If the political parties adopt democratic means of nominations, it means that popular candidates will emerge as candidates to stand for election.
It's our very obsession with political messianism that is undermining our capacity to develop citizens' leadership and broad social consensus.
I urge all participants in the general elections do everything to let the citizens lead. That is the purpose of the ballot, because it vests power in the people.
The need for politicians to continuously preach peace to their supporters, especially the youth, and holding politicians accountable for non-performance were some of the issues that came up during the interactive session. Phoebe Kabruk, NTA News.
Presidential Campaign Organization of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has embarked on an interactive forum to mobilize its councillors for the general elections. Chinedu Obike has details of the event which took place and took off with the North Central Zone.
From the states of the North Central Geopolitical Zone, including the Federal Capital Territory, PDP councillors converged on Abuja for an interaction with the Presidential Campaign Organization.
We are bringing them here because they are the real grassroots politicians, because they come from every electoral ward.
The Director, Contact and Mobilization of the Presidential Campaign Organization, Professor Jerry Ghana, spoke to the councillors.
So the purpose of the campaign organization bringing you is really to share with you the credentials and achievements of our candidates, so that every corner of this zone, after this program, when you go back, there will be a vibration.
The Director General of the organization, Dr. Amadu Ali, was represented by Professor Tunde Adeniro. The need for a violence-free election also came to the fore.
We do not want people to regard elections as warfare. It is a celebration of choice.
Elections should be peaceful. People should use their votes and not violence.
We are not going to fight them. We cannot go to our walls to tell our people the truth.
Organizers say the interactive forum will be held in all geopolitical zones of the country. In Abuja, Chinedu Obike.
This is news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. A recap of our major stories. We earlier informed you that as Nigeria commemorates Armed Forces Remembrance Day, Nigerian Army has reiterated commitment to national security. You also heard that U.S. envoy has advised Nigeria to learn from developed democracies as the nation prepares for February elections. Still to come, World Bank to assist Federal Road Safety Commission to achieve its
politicization fever in the broadcasting industry. How ready are we? Africast and Midcon 2014 have come and gone. Lots of lessons learned. Good Morning Nigeria and My Music and I, 2 new scintillating programs on NTA network. Ibrahim Adra from radio to television. He is bringing it. Is the cell phone killing the traditional wristwatches? Find out on TV Guide. Two-Face Idibia and Victor Olaya. The new collaborates with the old. And now on our cover is our own mother of Nollywood, Joke Silva. This auntie next door has so much to say. TV Guide. Buy one and give one to a friend. TV Guide. Available nationwide.
Thank you for being there. Now from the diaspora, supporters of the APC and PDP in Ghana are canvassing for votes for their candidates in the February 2015 elections. Cordelia Ukwoma reports that political billboards are springing up, while local radio stations in Accra are organizing debates to convince potential voters who intend traveling to Nigeria to vote.
The 2 major political parties in Nigeria, the APC and the PDP, are currently trying to outdo one another in Ghana as far as canvassing for votes for their candidates go. The PDP initially held sway with groups like TASOF and now TAN, campaigning and reaching out to groups, including women and students.
What we are doing as TAN is to talk to our people door to door, go to the markets and the schools, the universities.
The APC, which has initially been operating underground, is now making some bold public statements. The All Progressive Alliance APC has strategically positioned one of such giant billboards at Aflao, a border town between Togo and Ghana.
Even party settlement should not be there. That man, that woman who's campaigning for your vote, because your vote is your power, trying to mobilize Nigerians to start heading home.
With the 2 political parties planning their rallies for next week in Accra, the Nigerian ambassador to Ghana, Ambassador Ademola Onofowokon, only has words of advice.
Advise them to be law-abiding. There's no need for violence, even back home too. There's no need for violence. It will be well with Nigeria.
About 4 million Nigerians.
Youths, rural developments, good housing scheme, and pursue dynamic foreign policy as well as free and quality education. While speaking with NTA News, National Chairman of the party, Senator Mojisola Akinfenwa, expressed the belief that INEC would conduct free and fair elections, judging by the conduct of past elections under the chairmanship of Professor Atahiru Jega.
Last 1 year or so, governorship elections and so on, which are free and fair to some great extent. So I believe 2015 election, my expectation will be better.
Senator Mojisola Akinfenwa also advised Nigerian youths to shun all forms of anti-social vices before, during and after the elections so that the Nigeria of everybody's dream can be built.
Election violence had been our problem in this country, especially after, not even during elections. You see youths being used, handling cordials and all these other dangerous weapons to scare people from and so on. But the last few elections conducted, this last 1.5 years, that has been prevented to some extent. And that makes me believe that the youths are gradually understanding the situation. Now with the appeal made to the less privileged, to the poor people, that they should not allow their children to be used. My party goes all along, all the way to advise this our members not to allow their children to be used. And I think by this, the whole thing is going to be reduced to the minimum.
Alliance for Democracy, AD, Principles and Ideals can be dated as far back as 1979. Now let's look at bettering education in Nigeria as it concerns elections. The Nigeria Union of Teachers has made a case for the provision of adequate security for pupils and teachers in the forthcoming general elections. Franka Uzomolua reports that the event was the 2015 Interfaith National Solemn Assembly of the Union in Abuja. Here is the report.
They came from different religious and ethnic backgrounds, but with one spirit and one message, that is, for peace to reign in Nigeria, especially during this year's elections. A major focus of the prayer is the safe return of more than 200 Chibok girls, religious tolerance, and peaceful coexistence among Nigerians.
Despite all problems and tribulations, you still make us one. You have never allowed any problem to separate us, and we believe that Nigeria will not be separated.
The union also prayed for God's guidance and protection of leaders and Nigerian children during the 2015 elections.
Let enough fund be provided to the army, to the security people, so as to acquire the needed weapon to counter the insurgency.
Meanwhile, the union has expressed concern over the shortfall in education budget, which it says will affect public education if not checked. In Abuja, Franca Uzoma Olwa, NTA News.
Now, the World Bank has promised to support the Federal Road Safety Commission with technical backup on its proposed development plan. This forms part of the resolutions of the meeting between the officials of the World Bank and the co-marshal of the Commission, Boboye Oyeyemi, at the headquarters of the bank in Washington, D.C. Aliyu Kabir reports.
Within the last 5 years, records by the Federal Road Safety Commission show that an average of 6,000 Nigerians are dying annually as a result of road crashes. Equally, the economic loss of about 30% of the GDP of the developing countries made Nigeria in 2013 alone lose over 1.7 trillion naira. Presenting his scorecard, the co-marshal of the FRSC explained in detail what he described as short and long-term plan of the Commission's target of achieving 10-year strategic goal of reducing accidents by 50% by year 2020, in line with the Accra Declaration and the United Nations Decade of Action. While appreciating the assistance of World Bank, the co-marshal also seek for more support.
Give them support in capacity building. Tanzania is making requests already. So as other countries are asking for our support, we need to also continue to develop our own capacity. So it's very critical that we need support from the World Bank.
In all, the World Bank remains committed to providing technical support to FRSC for the implementation of its 10-year development plan to serve as a model within the African continent.
Road safety personnel also in Africa, and to see an African institution which is setting up on an example both in Africa and in the world.
While promising support of reducing accidents in Nigeria, the officials of World Bank also charged to strengthen capacity towards monitoring and evaluation of programs in order to achieve the set target. From Washington, D.C. in the United States, Aliyu Kabir, NTA News.
And sports before we go, Team Nigeria is set to compete in the International Table Tennis Federation ITTF Africa Senior Championship in Egypt, following support from the National Sports Commission as former Brazil international Ronaldo de Lima bounces back from retirement. Kenema Bodike tells us more on Sports Update.
Contrary to speculations, a Nigerian contingent of 5 male and 5 female players, as well as few officials, will depart the country January 22nd for the ITTF Africa Senior Championship scheduled to kick off in Cairo, Egypt, January 23rd. NTA Sports confirms through officials of the Nigerian Table Tennis Federation that adequate logistics to execute the championship are to be made available by the National Sports Commission. The competition, which serves as qualifiers for the World Championship in China come April, has Nigeria as one of its top favorites aside hosts Egypt. With 2 days to the start of the 30th edition of Africa Cup of Nations in Equatorial Guinea, government officials have downplayed growing concerns over the dreaded Ebola virus, saying participants will be thoroughly screened across the venues. The host faced Congo in the opening match Saturday in the coastal city of Bata to kickstart the tournament, which will have 16 nations in participation.
We have gone through qualifiers since the month of April
and you have not had any single Ebola case related to a football game, even when it comes to local football played in the host countries.
Brazilian soccer star and Ballon d'Or winner in 1996, 1997 and 2002, Ronaldo de Lima, says he will attempt to make a playing comeback this spring with a second-tier North American Soccer League side, First Lauderdale Strikers Football Club. Ronaldo, who is now 38 years old, has not played since February 2011. With Sports Update, Kenayima Bodike, NTA News.
The sports report, we wrap up this bulletin. We thank you for watching.
The Port of Mombasa represents both the current hot pace and the future potential of Africa's economic growth. Oil and other commodities pass through here on the way to Uganda and other landlocked nations. The port's volume of business increased 12.5% in 2011 to 19.6 million tons, or 770 TEUs, the technical shipping measure. This ranks third in Africa, according to the World Bank, behind Egypt, South Africa, and Morocco. But these African countries rank far behind the world's leader, Shanghai, and even behind the Malaysian port of Tanjung Pelapas. Experts have various suggestions of how Africa can catch up.
The Port of Mombasa doesn't need much more space. It needs a little bit more space, but it needs better systems to make sure the containers go through quicker, that the containers can go immediately on the rail after they're being cleared by the customs and the other administrative bottlenecks. So it is much more about those type of modern infrastructure that Africa will need.
Wolfgang Fengler is an economist and an author who recently launched a book, Living the Kenyan Dream.
As a young child, she was trained and disciplined by her parents in preparation for the future. And what seemed like an unfair treatment and an act of wickedness to her turned out to be what molded her into who she is today. An epitome of motherhood and womanhood, known for her success story, exceptional qualities and outstanding courage, even in the territory of men. Today's edition of Women in Focus features Lady Winifred Osaru Onyo.
I was born in Abuja, Warri, Then it was not called Delta State. Years ago, no woman tells you her age, but I will. I celebrated my 80th birthday, January 25th, 2014.
She was born on the 25th of January 1934 in Abuja, Warri, Delta State, into the family of the late John Anyaru. She was brought up in a humble Christian home in Abuja. Mrs. Osaru Onyon started her primary education at the convent school and proceeded to the secondary stage, where she studied at the government school to complete her secondary education.
I went to Queen's College, a premier secondary school in Lagos. My college mother then was the former Vice Chancellor of University of Benin, Professor Grace Alele Williams. From there, we were the foundation member. We went to Ede to start the Queen's School, Ede. So I belong to the Queen's College and Queen's School, Ede. And from there, I went to Nigerian College of Science and Technology in Ibadan in 1957, and from there, I went to University of Ibadan and graduated from there, Bachelor of Arts in History in 1961, and then I got a Commonwealth Scholarship and went to Montreal McGill University, a premier university in Canada.
Lady Winifred Onyon has functioned in various capacities at home and abroad, which began after she obtained her master's degree in 1970 as the Deputy Head of Technical Services in North York Public Library, Canada.
The then military governor of Bender State, Brigadier Samuel Ugbomudia, heard about me in Toronto, where my husband and I moved to, and said he wanted someone to come and start a library service in Bender State. I had spent 12 years in Canada. And I said, what? And I never came back, even for holidays. And I said, what am I coming to? My husband, wonderful man, was an aeronautical engineer.